Choose one, stay in your current location, and pay close attention to everything I'm about to say. The truth you are about to discover will irreparably ruin the restricted version of yourself you currently hold. You are currently experiencing an event that you have yet to fully comprehend. A silent transformation that occurs in dimensions invisible to the human sight, but is sensed by the soul each time you lay your head on the pillow and notice that something has changed. The most alarming aspect of it all is that even God is impressed with your growth. I recognize that this statement appears to be unnecessarily bold, overstated, or the type of statement that people use to temporarily boost their sense of self-importance before reality knocks them back to their feet. However, this is not the case, since the information I am about to share with you today is more than just motivation or a weak assurance of immediate improvement. It is the established spiritual truth about your inevitable evolution, independent of your own beliefs. The gap between wanting to become something and knowing you are already becoming it is heartbreaking. Furthermore, that differentiation has been proven in a way that will astound you. Subscribe to this channel immediately and enable all notifications, as the truths I discuss here are being purposely repressed to keep select individuals like yourself from discovering their full potential. Please stay until the end, as I will demonstrate the exact nature of your transformation, the reason for God's admiration, the indicators that are already manifesting in your life to confirm this transformation, and the consequences for all those who have questioned your abilities when the full manifestation occurs. If you have had the experience that something within you is evolving without your consent and are willing to face the dreadful truth about your true nature, please post 777 in the comments. You were unconscious of the spiritual dimension's activity while going about your daily life, believing that no one was watching, despite the fact that you had the same conflicts every morning. While you smiled at people who did not deserve your goodwill. Even though no one was present, you chose to follow the law. A record was being made. Every single decision, every thought, every time you had the opportunity to be kind and chose not to be callous. Every time it would have been easier to lie. You opted for the truth. You never gave up, even when you could have. All of this has been recorded. Not by regular angels, not by arbitrary entities. However, a certain celestial hierarchy is in charge of determining which spirits on earth are ready for alterations beyond the ordinary. What is the most alarming? The observation did not begin last week. It did not start last month. It's been going on for much longer than you might have expected. Do you recall a time when you were completely alone and still chose to act with integrity? That moment when no one would ever know if you had behaved differently? The time when the temptation seemed impossible to resist, but you did so nevertheless. That same moment was recorded. Furthermore, it was documented as proof, rather than as just another piece of data in an infinite file of information. Concrete evidence that your character has advanced to a degree beyond that of the bulk of humanity. You felt for years that your tiny decisions were insignificant, that no one noticed when you were playing effectively without an audience. The universe was not aware of your silent battles. However, each of them was being watched. Exam. Recorded as part of a spiritual dossier that would be used to determine if you were ready for the next level. I am here today as a result of the completion of the dossier. Following a long period of rigorous observation, an event occurred that is extremely rare in the spiritual realm. The report for you has been finished. When the angelic authorities in charge of appraising souls in transition read the conclusion, there was a moment of quiet that lasted several days in human time. The quiet was not a sign of disappointment. The stillness was one of veneration, because the conclusion did not just state that you possessed potential. It did not just state that you were a kind person. It did not simply state that you were entitled to common blessings. The conclusion said that you had exceeded all expectations for spirits at your level of growth. I shall explain the practical ramifications of this. To be considered prepared for special transformations, a soul must achieve certain basic requirements. The vast majority of people spend their entire lives failing to meet even the bare minimum. However, some people reach the bare minimum after decades of deliberate spiritual practice. You did not simply meet the minimal. You exceeded it without realizing you were being evaluated. This is the section that impressed even the highest levels. You did all of this without any external motivation. You were being monitored without your awareness, without expecting any remuneration. You were simply who you are because you deliberately chose to be that way. This is quite uncommon. The vast majority of people only act with integrity when they are aware that they are being monitored. The difficult way should only be taken when there is an audience to applaud. Only maintain high standards when under social pressure to do so. You remained true to your individuality, even in the lack of light, even while alone. Regardless, no one would ever be able to tell the difference. When this level of character consistency is identified, a very specific occurrence occurs in the spiritual realm. A decree is issued. This isn't a recommendation. It's not viable. An official decree declaring your metamorphosis no longer asks whether it will happen. Rather, it asks when it will completely materialize in the physical sphere. I am aware that you have been expecting this portion since the video's start. The guarantee that the title implied that I would fulfill in its entirety. What is the exact nature of your transformation? This question does not have a simple answer because your transformation is complex. It functions in numerous dimensions at the same time and will have an impact on every element of your life in ways that you do not yet understand. However, I shall demonstrate the key factors that have been confirmed about your unavoidable fate. Initially, you will play the role of a living spiritual leader. This does not imply that you will be given a religious title or position in an institution. It indicates that the frequency with which you are present has an impact on the reality of others around you. When you arrive, the environment's vibe changes. It is not due to your efforts to persuade. The reason is not because you require artificial energy. However, the environment is pressured to either increase in parallel with your existing frequency or withdraw completely. You have already noticed minor variations of this. Individuals that reveal knowledge to you in a way that is not shared with anyone else. Unknown people that show trust in you without any clear reason. Individuals who seek your advice despite the presence of others with more comprehensive qualifications. This will significantly increase in intensity. As a result, you will function as a conduit for transformation. When you become involved, seemingly impossible circumstances begin to resolve. When you arrive, solutions to previously insoluble problems will be revealed. People who were previously confused will get clarity merely by being in your presence. It's not because you know all the answers. However, your frequency ignites previously inert solutions that were awaiting the right catalyst. In addition, you act as that catalyst. Third, you will become an eternal source of light. You are unable to extinguish your light, regardless of the darkness you meet. Even on your worst days, people will notice that you exude an intensity that they cannot match. Furthermore, the illumination is not synthetic. It is not coerced. It is not a spiritual performance designed to impress people. It's the natural outgrowth of who you've truly become inside. Fourth, You will act as a conduit between the apparent and the invisible. You will be able to work in both the physical and spiritual worlds with the ease that few beings have. You will obtain information directly from sources that are beyond human logic. You will be aware of information that is outside your capacities. You will be able to notice patterns that others cannot. This is currently taking place. You've already had experiences when you were able to gather information without being able to articulate the source of your knowledge, where the response was received before the query was fully established. Your intuition was so accurate that you were taken aback. This capability will see an exponential increase. For those interested in learning more, the description and pinned comment include exclusive content. I must now clarify one point that may be the most upsetting aspect of the information I'm going to reveal to you. When I say that God was impressed with you, I'm not using poetic words to make you feel good. When the report on your evolution was delivered, a genuine reaction occurred on the highest levels. And before you decide that this is overblown or arrogant, let me provide some context. At the same time, God looks after billions of souls. Each day, trillions of decisions are made. Every second witnesses an unlimited number of acts of compassion, brutality, bravery, and cowardice. The vast majority of such observations are exactly as anticipated. Behavior is consistent with that of humans, creating predictable decisions based on known patterns. Any celestial creature could have foretold how the situation would unfold. However, the trend is occasionally broken by an individual, though infrequently. A soul evolves beyond what is expected at its current stage. A soul exhibits integrity that goes beyond the constraints of their life experience. A soul consistently chooses the more difficult route without any guarantee of reward. Even the Creator is aware of this when it happens. What did you do to trigger this response? It was not one huge gesture. It wasn't an astonishing miracle. It wasn't a sacrifice that drew media attention. It was a matter of consistency. It was the result of thousands of tiny decisions in which you chose to be who you truly are over the person who would be more convenient. It was the will to keep your lights on despite the fact that the environment was pushing you towards darkness. It was the reluctance to give in to corruption, even when it seemed to be the only possible option for survival. The highest aspects were impressed by the silent consistency, heroism without an audience, and integrity without evident reward. Because it is easy to exhibit virtue when everyone is present. Maintaining integrity is easy when there is social pressure to do so. When the consequences of making the wrong decision are clear, it is easy to choose the right path. However, to continuously pick the difficult route without the expectation that anybody will notice is to be true to oneself. That's simply remarkable. And you did it without even recognizing you were performing an exceptional task. If the transition I'm describing is genuine, you should notice signs in your life that it's already happening. In addition, there are. You merely lacked the proper perspective to recognize their genuine character. The initial indication. Variations in your sleep schedule. You've been sleeping less, but you're waking up feeling more refreshed. Alternatively, you are having extremely vivid hallucinations that appear to be more real than your waking life. Alternatively, you wake up at set times on a regular basis without an alarm. Tau. This is owing to the increased ease with which higher dimensions can be accessed while asleep. Your body is currently adjusting to the increased spiritual frequency that you are carrying. Sign number 2. Increased sensitivity to energies. Locations that were once tolerable have turned intolerable. Your vitality is currently being sapped by people whose company you formerly enjoyed. Or Foods that were previously ingested by you no longer suit your body type. This is not being overly specific. Your physical body is adjusting to the higher spiritual frequency at which you are currently operating. Things with low vibrations are simply not in sync with your emerging identity. The third indicator: continuous numerical synchronization. The regularity with which you see 1,111, 333, and 444 is statistically unfathomable. Repeated numerals emerge in seemingly random areas. This is the universe's validation that you are on the right track and that the transformation is progressing as planned. Sign number 4. Changes in your appearance that cannot be explained. People have expressed their view that you appear distinct, yet they are unable to identify a precise reason. Some people claim that you appear young. You exude a certain energy that attracts others. When others view you, they feel a sense of metamorphosis. This is the commencement of the internal frequency that influences exterior expression. Your spiritual metamorphosis involves a literal rewrite of your physical self-presentation. The fifth omen: increased capacity to materialize swiftly. Things you've been thinking about are coming to fruition more quickly. Your desires are being realized at an unparalleled rate. There is a noticeable reduction in the distance between thinking and actuality. This is because as your frequency rises, you become more in tune with the creative source, which connects thought and reality very instantly. Sixth omen: moments of peace or contentment that arise without external justification. You experience tremendous peace or an excess of delight for no clear reason. Moments when everything feels absolutely fine, even though your circumstances haven't altered. This is your consciousness celebrating the shift, which your conscious mind is only now beginning to comprehend. The seventh indicator: the feeling of being watched with affection. A persistent, invisible, and benevolent presence is felt around you. It's not paranoia. It is not the result of the imagination. It is a heightened awareness of the cosmic powers in charge of ensuring that your metamorphosis is completed successfully. How many of these indicators do you currently see? If the number is greater than 3, the change has already begun. If the number reaches 5, you are closer to perfect manifestation than you may have realized. Now, I must be brutally honest with you about a topic that is usually hidden in spiritual teachings, as it is not a pleasant subject to discuss. Transformation is not without costs. To achieve full manifestation, you must be willing to pay the price. The initial price. Before it fades, momentary loneliness will increase. Many present relationships may fail to sustain themselves while you undergo a shift because you will resonate at a new frequency. Not because you become arrogant, but because you are no longer drawn to superficial chats, created drama, and codependent relationships. People who were formerly close will appear strange. Locations you have valued will appear barren. You will also experience loneliness throughout the transition period, which will reveal whether you are actually committed to transformation or simply interested in spiritual pursuits as a hobby. However, this solitude is temporary. As a result of completing the shift, you will attract a genuine tribe of creatures who operate on the same frequency. Genuine connections will make past relationships seem shallow in comparison. Subsequently, the level of responsibility will grow at an exponential rate. B. With great power comes immense responsibility. As you advance to the position of spiritual authority, every comment you make is significant. Each action you take affects others. You are no longer allowed to live wildly since others are witnessing and impacted by your actions. When they understand the scope of their responsibility, certain individuals experience a regression in their transformation. They prefer anonymity and ease over the duty of spiritual leadership. However, you will not regress. Your character has already been thoroughly tested for the higher dimensions, so you can be confident in your capacity to handle responsibility with integrity. Third, payment. Compromises will be made untenable. You will be unable to bend the facts in order to acquire social approval. You will be unable to avoid confrontation by pretending to agree to falsehoods. Even if it would be easier to remain silent, you will be unable to bear injustice without speaking up. Your integrity will become so unshakable that you will opt to turn down possibilities rather than compromise what you are certain is correct. Paradoxically, unwavering integrity will attract actual chances that concessions would never provide. The fourth price. You will be compelled to relinquish control over the transformation's implementation. The end destination will be obvious to you. However, the methods for achieving this goal are rarely sensible. You will be obliged to rely on divine guidance, even if each decision appears to contradict conventional reason. The ego's fixation on regulating every aspect leads to its downfall. These costs are not intended to be punitive. These are filters. They guarantee that only those who are truly committed to transformation will see complete manifestation. The fact that you are still present to hear this implies that you are willing to make whatever sacrifices are required. Furthermore, the affirmation of your metamorphosis prompted another occurrence that will radically affect your perception of future hurdles and assaults. A protective protocol was developed with your specific requirements in mind. This suggests that celestial forces were assigned the explicit goal of ensuring that your metamorphosis is not hindered. Not one single force. Not twice. An entire squadron dedicated to ensuring your success. Protection Level 1. The automatic prevention of spiritual assault. Any bad energy work, projected jealousy, or spiritually destructive attempt now returns to the sender multiplied. It is unnecessary to actively defend yourself. The protection functions automatically at unnoticeable frequencies. You've already acknowledged it without completely understanding it. People who intended to destroy you have mysteriously experienced personal collapses. The problems they created against you have backfired on them. Not because you condemned anyone, but because celestial protection requires anyone who comes into contact with the anointed from higher realms to sign their own sentence. Protection Level 2. False opportunities are diverted. You will not be seduced by offerings that diverge from your path. If they do, you will feel an innate rejection that will make it difficult for you to accept. The universe will physically block doors that appear alluring, but go nowhere. You've had situations where an opportunity appeared to be wonderful on paper, but a part of you declined without presenting a rational explanation. You eventually recognized it was a deception. That was the operation for protection. Protection Level 3. Proper synchronization is expedited. False opportunities are blocked, while opportunities that align with your goals are accelerated. You will meet the appropriate people at the right moment. Essential information will be sent exactly when it is needed. Resources will appear just when they are needed. And Protection Level 4. Direct intervention during vital occasions. When transformation success is seriously jeopardized, celestial forces will interfere immediately. Not necessarily in obvious ways, but in retrospect, you'll understand that incredible coincidences saved your life, career, or mental health at vital moments. This precaution protects you from catastrophe, not problems. You may be tested, but you cannot be permanently vanquished. Despite the presence of impediments, one cannot be prevented from attaining their destination. I must now cover a subject that I am sure you are considering but may be reluctant to discuss. You want to know what happened to the people who questioned your talents. The person who diminished you. Who said that you were insignificant? Who attempted to undermine you at your most vulnerable moment? I'm going to notify you. Your rivals are already aware that you have an uncommon quality. They've seen that earlier assaults are no longer effective, that caustic language fails to penetrate. Those conspiracies are strangely unsuccessful. Furthermore, certain people have arrived at the correct conclusion. You are currently protected by higher forces. This indicates that attacking you is the same as declaring war on cosmic dimensions. Some people choose to retreat. Observe the strange silence of those who used to relentlessly attack you. Not because of their forgiveness. However, they are concerned about the consequences, which is why they seek celestial protection. Others, on the other hand, will be so elated that they will continue to attack, even though they will eventually be defeated. And when that happens, you will see breakdowns so dramatic that you will feel sorry for your enemies as they suffer the repercussions of their conduct. I am not talking about the necessity of implementing revenge. I am talking about justice that acts automatically. Planting refers to the spiritual law that secures a harvest. Unavoidable repercussions for anyone who chooses to harm protected spirits. The most intriguing aspect is that your adversaries will be forced to witness the exact opposite of what they predicted you would never be, as your transformation becomes externalized. With each achievement you have, they will be reminded of their inability to destroy you. Each blessing you receive will confirm that they committed an unlawful act against an individual. At some point, some will try to approach again, assuming they never harbored animosity toward you, behaving as if they had been your buddies forever, trying to reignite a flame that they had earlier planned to extinguish. Your discernment will reveal who deserves a second chance. Also, who is attempting to take advantage of the situation? Your intuition will guide you in determining who has truly transformed and who is faking it to gain an advantage. Your protection will alert you to individuals who continue to pose a threat despite wearing a repentance mask. I now present to you the final and most important aspect of the information I have provided you today. The decree governing your transformation ensures that the physical manifestation of your transformation is completed in undeniable ways within a specified time frame. This does not imply that life will be perfect. It implies that the true nature of one's being will be so clearly revealed that neither the individual nor others will be able to deny the existence of higher forces in their lives. In the coming months, you will suddenly gain clarity on a specific action that must be taken. It will be so obvious that you will wonder how you could have missed it the first time. And taking that step will set off a series of impossible synchronicities. Following that, you will encounter the first significant manifestation. Eventually, you will obtain something you have been pursuing for a long time. An opportunity that seemed unattainable. A connection that you were desperate for. A breakthrough you had previously given up on. As a result, your social circle will undergo significant changes. Individuals who were previously in your life will no longer be there. In addition, people you have yet to meet will have become close allies. You will not be required to implement this modification. Naturally, it will happen as the frequency increases. You will see the manifestation of financial abundance, which serves as proof that divine provision is real. Not necessarily millions, but precisely the amount needed for the next phase of the mission. Finally, the extent of your transformation will be so obvious that former acquaintances will be unable to recognize you. Not physically, but energetically. Your presence will be so noticeable that even old photographs will appear to show a completely different person. All of this is happening right now as you hear these words. It is irrelevant to ask whether it will happen. It is only a matter of time before it becomes fully apparent. Additionally, the rate of manifestation is determined by one factor: your unwavering commitment to making the correct decisions. Each decision you make has the potential to accelerate or slow the process. You are unable to cancel the transformation. It may, however, be postponed if you return to your old habits. However, I am not concerned for your well-being. Your past decisions have already demonstrated that you are not a person who regresses. You are a tenacious individual. An individual who perseveres in their endeavors, regardless of the challenges they face. A person who prefers light, despite the fact that darkness appears to be more practical. This is precisely why your destiny was confirmed as unavoidable. Selected individual, you are now aware of the devastating truth about your identity. It is not a naive aspiration for one's potential if one is fortunate. This is an absolute certainty that has been confirmed by celestial authority concerning your impending transformation. Spiritual dimensions were recording evidence of your transformation as you went about your daily life, questioning whether you truly had a purpose. They were confirming that you'd reached the point of no return. Their official declaration stated that the physical reality of complete manifestation will be undeniable within a set time frame. In addition, the highest level of security was implemented to ensure that you arrive at your destination. Celestial forces were assigned with the sole objective of guaranteeing your success. Automatically, attacks are prevented. False opportunities are diverted. Accurate synchronizations are expedited. In critical situations, direct intervention is implemented. This is due to the fact that your character has proven to be reliable enough to facilitate the forthcoming transformation. Due to evidence that shows you will not squander the gifts that will be manifested. Because your consistency demonstrated that you will not compromise your objectives in the face of increased pressure. Even God was impressed. No, not with the grand miracles you performed. Not with the public sacrifices you have made. However, your silence is unwavering. Your bravery in the absence of an audience. Your integrity in the absence of any observers. That's simply remarkable. You achieve this by simply being yourself. For those who have reached this point and wish to further their understanding of how to expedite the manifestation of confirmed transformation, there is a particular item that is priced at less than a pizza and includes a complete audiobook and a 5-minute meditation guide as a special bonus. If you believe that you are entitled to expedite the process, the description link and the pinned comment provide access. If you acknowledge that the transformation is already underway within you, to increase the frequency of manifestation and expedite the synchronicities that will bring about your desired outcome, enter the number 777 in the comments section. To receive additional revelations regarding the manifestation of celestially confirmed transformations in the physical realm, subscribe to this channel and enable all notifications. Distribute this video to an individual who you believe is also experiencing an inevitable transformation. Because those who have been selected require confirmation that the changes they are experiencing are genuine and substantiated by higher dimensions. And before you depart, click on the video that is currently displayed on your screen to learn the specific indicators that your transformation has already commenced, as well as how to identify the manifestations that confirm the celestial decree over your life. Our combined strength is greater. Hello, dearly adored anointed ones. The most terrifying aspect of awakening is realizing that you were never insane. Instead, you were simply surrounded by people who needed your mental instability. Allow that to stay for a short time. Because tonight, not tomorrow, not next week, not after another breakdown, something irreversible will occur within you, and the world around you will sense it, whether they recognize it or not. This is a disturbing fact. According to a 2023 psychological study on social mirroring, the average person unconsciously suppresses their most authentic self in order to keep the truth from being activated in another person. Consider this. The majority of people are genuinely acting in order to maintain their attractiveness. So, what about you? In that system, you have consistently been a flaw. And beginning tonight, you will stop diminishing for their comfort and start emitting the frequency they claimed did not exist. This is where the situation becomes amusing. Have you ever noticed how, as you begin to heal and radiate, people from 7 years ago reappear, seemingly as unpaid extras in a Netflix series? Hello, I'm simply checking in. No, you're not a check-in. You are the unexpected twist in the story. As a result, fasten your preferred seatbelt. This isn't motivational nonsense. This is not a discussion of spiritual cupcakes. This is the episode where everything transforms. Furthermore, you will not simply assume a new identity by the end of the evening. You are about to embody an entity that they have prayed will never appear. Let us begin. Initially, you will be transformed into a mirror that radiates heat rather than reflecting it. You are not here to serve as a mirror for those who falsely represent themselves. You are here to reveal the information that they have concealed. And that is exactly what you will become starting tonight. This mirror is not benign, rather it is capable of putting out deception. Their meticulously crafted images will no longer reflect back at you. You will begin to expose the lies, remorse, phony confidence, and fear of being irrelevant in the presence of a genuine person that they have been attempting to hide. This transition is simultaneously silent and violent. There will be minimal communication required. Your energy will speak for itself. Your presence will begin to cause anxiety in others, not due to any wrongdoing on your part, but because you are becoming too authentic for their performance. However, the majority of people are not concerned about being evaluated. They are concerned about being fully, deeply, and unfiltered. This is the action you will take when you enter a room. You will begin to cause disruptions in those who have not completed the necessary internal work. They will be unable to explain why they feel insecure, defensive, or irritated in your presence. However, they will have this experience repeatedly. This is because their coverings cannot withstand the current heat. They may describe you as cold, arrogant, or forbidding. However, the true message is that you no longer allow me to deceive myself, which I despise. People are comfortable with mirrors that reflect their best qualities. However, they try to destroy them when they begin to reveal their true selves. They will try to turn your truth into a problem, but they understand your true nature. Evidence that their meticulously curated image is at risk of fracturing. This type of authority is rarely discussed. The ability to maintain a pure and piercing space in which others are forced to confront themselves or retreat. It's not a matter of outperforming others. It is about having a level of inner clarity that translates into spiritual X-ray vision. Furthermore, it isn't always glamorous. It is not always solitary. Occasionally, it leads to being falsely identified, misinterpreted, or even despised. However, it is genuine. Additionally, the energy will be stabilized tonight. You're no longer just reflecting the universe. You are about to melt the fallacies that underpin its operations. Number 2, you will serve as proof that spiritual warfare is more than just a metaphor. It includes surveillance, gaslighting, and isolation tactics. This is no longer an abstract concept. Spiritual warfare is a real thing, and it has never been a metaphor for those who have been chosen. You've lived your entire life, and tonight, you'll finally recognize it for what it is. You were never simply experiencing bad luck or a difficult time. You were being monitored. Without your knowledge, you were subjected to testing, research, and manipulation by not only individuals, but also the systems they were hired to support. Each betrayal, fabricated friendship, and strange moment of isolation happened on purpose. It was meant for. Subtle strategies were used. They gaslighted you until you doubted your own reality. They isolated you from your support systems in order to keep you vulnerable. They filled your life with distractions in order to keep you from seeing the truth. The most distressing aspect was that the majority of those working against you were unaware of their role. They thought they were just setting boundaries, moving on, or doing what was best for them. However, they were pawns in a very real battle for your character. This is the result of storing an ancient and uncommon substance in one's energy. You are marked when your frequency begins to jeopardize the lie-based systems. You are not allowed to navigate life in the same way as others. You're being observed. A test is given to you. You are constantly forced to choose between breaking down and bursting through. And now, after everything you've been through, you're reaching a point where those patterns start to make sense. Upon reflection, you will realize that the betrayal was not personal. This was a strategic decision. The loss was not a form of retaliation. A shove was delivered. Isolation did not lead to emptiness. It was an act of preparation. You have been instructed to remain silent at this time. You kept your head held high in the absence of applause. Your ability to maintain your faith in the face of doubt. The way you relied on your intuition, despite the fact that it appeared illogical on paper. All of this wasn't in vain. Tonight is the night when the conflict that surrounds you becomes visible, not only emotionally, but also spiritually, energetically, and physically. The curtain has been lifted. The patterns are evident. And then, all of a sudden, you stop feeling insane because you realize how real the battlefield is. Furthermore, you are no longer the object of the search. You are the person who possesses the information. Third, you will transform into a frequency capable of corrupting false systems. Your energy is starting to manifest in ways that others can no longer imitate. You're not just increasing your vibration. That phrase does not even address the situation you are experiencing. Your frequency is becoming disruptive in a way that dismantles everything based on falsehoods rather than chaotically. Individuals who rely on manipulation, control, and performance will encounter glitches when entering a space at this time. Their words will not resonate in the same way. Their allure is ineffective. Their ability to manipulate the room will deteriorate in real time as a result of your presence. It's not an issue of vanity. It is not a matter of exaggerated power. What is at stake is the development of your vitality. Your aura is no longer indistinguishable due to the numerous tears you have shed, the darkness you have endured, and the numerous times you have been shattered and rebuilt. Simply being present transforms you into a living signal that reveals the falsity of things. People may be unable to identify it, but they will notice a difference. That change is the recognition that their traditional strategies are no longer effective in your energy. Individuals who previously held authority in the room will lose control while you are present. For what reason? Because their energy was always based on a lie, an image, dread, and control, whereas yours is not. Your frequency is based on the present truth. It is not only elevated but also meticulously maintained. In addition, clear frequency corrupts illusion-based systems. This is why you may notice people avoiding eye contact, changing the subject, laughing awkwardly, or acting as if they said something incorrectly when they were completely correct. This is not your fault. Your frequency disrupts their programming. You will become more aware of the technological malfunctions that surround you. Individuals will sporadically drain or energize you. Your nervous system is now tuned in to what others cannot perceive, giving you the sensation of walking into strange places. You will be unable to stay in specific locations for an extended period of time, not because of your sensitivity, but because your spirit is resisting the urge to descend in order to stay comfortable. This is a genuine transition. Your energy is no longer just increasing. It is posing a direct threat to anything built in darkness. You have officially become too spiritually costly for the cheap games they used to enjoy. Number 4. You will gain the ability to disrupt time. You are entering a realm of spiritual influence that transforms reality, not metaphorically, but literally. You are on the verge of breaking the concept of time as they understand it. With your arrival, generations-old patterns will cease to exist. The cycles that people claimed were simply the natural order of things will collapse in your presence. Your actions tonight will have a long-term impact on the past, present, and future. This is why people from your past are unexpectedly reflecting on you. What motivates someone you haven't heard from in years to text or call you unexpectedly? It's not arbitrary. You are currently feeling pressure in your thorax as you vibrate through dimensions. That is not a concern. It is not dreadful. That is data, a spiritual upload. At the same time, your spirit is downloading divine information, old soul memories, and cosmic responsibilities. You are taking on the role of a reset point for everything that has been lost, twisted, lied about, suppressed, or stolen. The universe is granting you the ability to restore it. You are no longer seeking closure. You are the finality. Your recovery isn't just for your benefit. It disrupts timelines that were previously dominated by suffering. Individuals who have wronged you will begin to recall their actions completely unaware of why they are suddenly haunted by that memory. That is the result of a specific person being designated as a time breaker. You are not simply ascending. You are correcting. They will no longer be protected by their denials. Their fabricated stories will no longer be credible. The vibrational collapse of everything falsely built around your name, including your previous self, is the result of your evolution. The person who suffered was unaware of their actions and accepted what they did not deserve will begin to feel your presence. You will feel a sense of reconnection with yourself, a version of yourself who has finally attained the justice, wisdom, and voice that were previously lacking. You were anticipating this moment without even realizing it. The lines of time are now bending in the direction of your light. You are the cosmic interruption, the option for a fresh start, and the unexpected event. Starting tonight, everything they've distorted will start to correct itself through you. Number 5, you will become the secret they wished you would never remember. They did not just inflict harm on you. You became so immersed in distraction, humiliation, and noise that you began to question your origins in the light. They surrounded you with false narratives, false identities, and false timelines in the hopes of keeping you unconscious indefinitely. However, they did not anticipate the return of your memory, which included not only thoughts, but also cellular remembrance. Tonight, the memory begins to assault me. It will not murmur when it strikes. It will reverberate through your spirit like thunder, shattering the silence. You've always had the haunting feeling that something wasn't quite right. that you were observing life but not truly participating in it like everyone else. It was never perplexity. It was as if the world had already agreed on a script you had never seen. That was recognition, a deep, ancient understanding that the information you were looking at was not entirely accurate. They told you that you were excessively rebellious, intense, and sensitive, but their true intention was to convey that you were overly alert. They attempted to rewire you so that you forgot your true identity as a direct descendant of light, purpose, and power. This is why you were humiliated for having too much knowledge, mocked for your uniqueness, and punished for remaining motionless while others sought disorder. However, the programming is currently malfunctioning. They were unable to seal the fissures, which allow your divine memory to seep back through. And the secret they feared you would remember is currently unfolding. They did not simply attempt to regulate you. They were concerned that you would awaken and speak. This is why they put such pressure on you to forget. Forget your intuition, your truth, and how your energy transformed spaces before you spoke. But your memory is more than just mental. It is spiritual. It's deeply ingrained in your being. Furthermore, no amount of manipulation, trauma, or deception could completely eliminate it. That memory is going online tonight. The secret has been uncovered. They tried to suppress your revelation. You are the reincarnation of a primordial being. And the version of you that is currently emerging is the one that they hoped would never resurface. It is currently too late. You recollected. Sixth, you will evolve into a living judgment. You will not be required to lift any muscle. You will not be required to provide receipts, defend yourself, or express your viewpoint. A person's conviction will begin with your very existence. This is the result of genuine healing. When you stop being modest, stop justifying your actions, and truly embody the version of yourself that they said would never work, you're transformed into a living judgment. Because the truth is now passing through you, it is not because you are resentful or seeking vengeance, but because it is an inherent part of you. Additionally, truth does not require a microphone. It simply manifests itself. In its presence, everything deceptive crumbles. They referred to you as an issue. They attempted to turn your silence into an act of remorse. As they had hoped, your absence did not erase the memory of their actions. In reality, the consequences grew more severe as you remained silent. And you are now entering a period in which the mere mention of your name will awaken the conscience of others, much like an alarm clock that they cannot ignore. Their karma will be revealed, not through mystical punishment, but through the mirror that your life currently serves as theirs. They failed because you were the test and not the adversary. They will be haunted by your healing. They will be disturbed by your illumination. They will be more irritated by your calm than they were by your agony. That is how you can be certain they had no regrets. They were simply at ease when you were incapacitated. However, you have outgrown their narratives and are living proof that none of their strategies were successful. That you were more spiritually protected than they had imagined, colder than their rejection, and more powerful than their slander campaigns. They did not only lose access to you, but also their cover story. The evidence will be your liberation. Your success will be determined by the conclusion of the argument. Every room you enter from now on will carry the implicit message that they attempted to eliminate this person. Your presence will trigger delayed consequences. They will try to appear perplexed, as if they are unaware of the reasons for the chaos. But they will be aware of the truth. They interfered with someone with whom they had no authority to interact, and as a result, you were sentenced to the sentence they hoped they would never face. Seventh, you will serve as the culmination of their power excursions. They played their games on borrowed time, which has now expired. The entire dynamic shifts the moment you stop waiting for explanations, apologies, or validation. You are no longer seated at the table that they attempted to regulate. Rather, you have eliminated it entirely. The power they once wielded over you is now exposed for what it was: manipulation, vanity, and smoke. And tonight, that illusion is shattered as you finally accept the reality that they hoped you would never understand. They could never control you. Instead, they influenced you. They maintained authority because of your unwavering pursuit of significance amidst the chaos. You stayed because you wanted clarity. You desired tranquility, so you went into great detail. You desired the truth, so you gave them numerous opportunities to behave in a way that was appropriate for your presence. However, those days are over. You are no longer inquiring. You have the knowledge. When a chosen one transitions from hope to knowledge, the entire manipulation structure is dismantled. They thrived on your skepticism, empathy, and willingness to keep giving people the benefit of the doubt, even when they revealed their true nature. However, you have now become the solution to every question they previously left unanswered. Your energy no longer begs. Rather, it affirms. Your tranquility no longer seeks permission. It asserts itself. And what used to make you feel confused or powerless is now recognized for what it was: a diversion designed to keep you small in order to support their ego. This concludes tonight. They cannot manipulate your mind, emotions, or value because you are no longer seeking closure. You are the finality. They are not allowed to ghost, breadcrumb, or guilt trip you into maintaining a connection. Because you are no longer the abandoned. You are the awakening. And their fabricated authority worked only when you were unaware of your own. This is now your responsibility. Their power trip ends when you stop fulfilling the role they've assigned you. They no longer have control. They are now vulnerable. In reality, they are now confronted with a version of you that they never expected to have to answer to. Number 8. You will become the sacred text that they are unable to comprehend. You are on the verge of becoming the kind of truth that cannot be debated, Googled, or diluted. The type that does not come with a manual, but is the manual. The energy is not boisterous, but it penetrates. You will enter locations and feel a sense of change without saying a word. Not because you are trying to be mysterious or profound, but because you have protocols that were not intended for others to access. That is the result of moving beyond the level of external consciousness. You transform into a sacred text made entirely of your presence rather than paper. Hearing your voice will cause an ancient sensation in others. They will be captivated by your frequency, not because they understand you, but because it brings back a memory they either forgot or never knew existed. However, instead of acknowledging this, many people will become irritated. They will try to diminish you, confine you, and assign you a label. For what reason? Because it is easier to mock what one does not understand than to admit that one is spiritually unprepared to accept it. They'll observe you, feel guilty, and conclude that you're the problem. In reality, it is the disparity between your awareness and theirs that makes them uncomfortable. This is the point at which your authority becomes unbreakable. You will not waste energy attempting to explain your position to people who are unable to listen without ego. You will not fight for the right to be seen by those who refuse to remove the veil from their own eyes because your truth is not debatable. It is simply true. The message will be conveyed through your actions, including speech, walking, and silence. Not everyone will like it. Not all people are expected to. You intended to cause confusion among certain people, Their spiritual consequence is confusion. You are not here to be read like a book. You are present to be observed in an enigma-like manner. And when they realize they can't interpret, imitate, or decode you, some will feel compelled to approach, while others will retreat in discomfort. This is the distinction between genuine and counterfeit. And all you needed to do was exist. Number 9, you will be the disruptor of generational programming. You were not born to conform to the story that your ancestors repeatedly told. You were meant to disrupt it unapologetically, violently, and completely. The silence they referred to as respect, the suffering they normalized as love, and the dysfunction they encased in tradition have all culminated in you. It is not because you dislike your family. Rather, you have finally summoned the courage to question the erroneous path that everyone else has chosen. You were not the dissident as a result of that investigation. It converted you into the truth. Truth is not meant to be preserved, but rather to be disrupted. They desired that you continue their practices as if they were your inheritance. However, you detected the ruse early on. Even as a child, you sensed that this could not be true. You observed the gaslighting, favoritism, emotional manipulation, and secrets that were known but never spoken aloud. They also observed your observation. That was when they started treating you as the problem. You were not the problem. You were the disruption, the malfunction in the matrix of generational trauma that told everyone to remain silent and smile. They will see your recovery as an act of betrayal. Your boundaries will be viewed as disrespectful. Bitterness will be used to describe your absence. But don't be fooled. This is not the case. That is the language of programming that instructs them to combat any entity that threatens their perception of family. As a result, you became perilous not because of your actions, but because you failed to fulfill your obligations. You declined the contract. You declined the performance. You refused to serve as an emotional proxy for a system that benefited from your silence. You are not here to be liked. You are here to liberate. You are the person who left and finally exhaled, who said, "This concludes with me," and meant it. They too experienced the change. Some people may try to investigate you, not to learn anything, but to devise a novel way to elicit your return. Certain people will be afraid of you because your calmness reveals the true malignancy of the system. Those in denial will maintain the illusion that nothing has changed. However, everything has changed because you did more than simply interrupt a cycle. You shattered a survivalist legacy disguised as love. And you are now living proof that freedom was always possible. Number 10, you will become an entity that is prohibitively expensive for them to access. Not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. There comes a time in your evolution when you can no longer lower your frequency in order to be understood. That moment has already occurred. Tonight you reach an unrivaled spiritual level of value. Your soul becomes a luxury rather than a convenience. This means that people who previously had unrestricted access to your property will no longer be able to do so, not because you changed the locks, but because they no longer have the currency required to gain entry. You spent years ensuring that people were at ease. You shrank in size. You provided an excessive amount of information. You ignored your intuition in order to maintain the illusion of tranquility. You tolerated people who were only concerned with your past wounds rather than your healed self. However, the cost of your recovery has increased. And now, the version of you that they once manipulated has vanished, replaced by a person who understands their worth and acts accordingly. Your presence is not free anymore. Honesty is expensive. It incurs the cost of accountability. Spiritual maturity comes at a cost. Additionally, the majority of people are unable to afford this. They'll start to take notice. You will cease to respond. You will decline invitations without remorse. You will allow the phone to ring. When they try to figure out what's causing the problem, they'll face reality. Your silence does not indicate anger, but rather discernment. You finally stopped explaining your position to people who only listen to respond rather than understand. Your new energy creates an environment that they are not prepared to handle. They will discuss your transformation, and they will be right. Because they genuinely long for their former authority over you, not you. Family will not be an exception. Blood relationships no longer guarantee spiritual access. When someone enters your space, they are denied entry if they cause confusion, chaos, or ego. Your tranquility is now restricted regardless of its designation. Your presence is of premium quality. Your energy is sacred. It's possible they will knock. They may offer an apology. They may demonstrate humility. But their access remains expired until their spirit has evolved and they have completed the genuine work, as you are no longer motivated by guilt. Alignment governs you. You did not become estranged. You attained divinity. Now they are discovering the hard way. Access to you was never a right. It was always considered a privilege. Additionally, that privilege has been revoked. Number 11, you will achieve the unattainable. They declared that you would never recover, that you would never rise without their assistance, and that the harm they inflicted on you was irreparable. They smirked when you fell, gossiped when you wept, and clinked glasses when they believed they had successfully buried you. However, they were unaware of the fact that you were never their victim, and they were unable to calculate this. You were evolving into the one entity that they said was impossible to exist, an individual who transformed ruins into resurrection. They did not merely harbor doubts about you. They invested in your failure because it provided them with solace. Their proof that they were stronger was your pain. Yet the narrative was entirely rewritten by the process of healing. And now, each breath you take in peace, each step you take in power, and every word you speak in truth are in direct opposition to the narrative they have constructed about you. You were not intended to arrive at this location. However, you are becoming the reality that they cannot ignore, the living, breathing, unstoppable evidence that their judgments were merely projections. The qualities that they ridiculed in you have now become your sources of strength. The trauma that was used to label you has now served as your training ground. The scars they mocked have been transformed into spiritual technology, each one imprinted with wisdom and indicating the path to power, redemption, and survival. You are no longer merely surviving, you are radiating. Additionally, they are offended by your radiant appearance. It is accurate, not because it is arrogant. They claim that you were too damaged. Your joy is on the brink of causing them to choke. Your blessings are about to multiply with receipts, as you are too impoverished. You are now the safest space in the room due to the extent of your damage. Not only for yourself, but also for those who were previously deceived in the same way. Your life is no longer solely yours. It is a prophecy in progress. You are the result of a soul's refusal to remain buried. You are not only ascending, you are ascending in the plain sight of those who swore you would not. Every time you smile, thrive, or walk in peace, it undoes every curse they casually spoke over you. Your recovery is not a triumphant tale. Rather, it is a cosmic rebuke to every fabrication they have ever perpetrated. And tonight, your very existence is a rebellion, a miracle they cannot explain, and a truth they hoped would never be proven. it is too late. You have already achieved it. In the 12th position, you will serve as a reminder that God was constantly monitoring the situation. They believed that they had gotten away with it, that the silence indicated that God was not watching, and that your breakdowns, isolation, and confusion were indicators of abandonment, both divine and human. However, they were unable to discern that God was not absent. God was compiling a record. No matter how many lies they told, how many fake apologies they issued, how many backroom conversations they had, or how many cruel jokes they told, none of it vanished into the void. It was all being tallied. And tonight, the equilibrium begins to shift. You did not survive due to your luck. You survived as a result of the protection you received. You were not able to prevail solely on your own strength. You were carried by heaven when no one else would. And as they whispered, plotted, and pointed fingers, believing that you were done, God was preparing a table, not only in secret, but also in their presence. Neglect was not the reason for that silence. It was a strategy. The setup necessitated that God remain silent. The storm is now upon you, not to destroy you, but to elevate you to such a height that their lies are crushed by the weight of your truth. Your ascent will not only serve as an inspiration. The procedure will involve surgery. It will sever every false narrative they attempted to construct about you. You are not simply returning with tranquility. You are returning with evidence. And they will be compelled to observe, as the same individuals who previously attempted to undermine you are now compelled to attest to the favor you possess. They will squint in search of imperfections, but they will only be able to perceive the beauty. A search for loopholes will ensue. However, they will encounter locked doors. The divine receipts are pouring in, and your life is the subject of the headline. This is not an act of retribution. This is restoration with an audience. The timing was chosen by God to be painful, so that those who laughed would recognize that they were not laughing at you. They were amused by an object of piety. Additionally, the laughter has reached its expiration date. You are the reminder that God was never ignoring the injustice, as you stand in your power, clarity, and healed presence. He was constructing your vindication brick by brick, in silence. And tonight, that silence transforms into a roar, emanating from the heavens rather than your lips. Number 13 will transform you into an entity that no longer requires authorization to exist. For years, you endeavored to render yourself digestible. In order to facilitate others' comfort, you diminished your volume, intensity, and authenticity. In spaces that you were already eligible to own, you requested permission. You delayed granting yourself permission until others validated you, applauded you, or said yes. However, that version of you will perish tonight. The individual who over-explained, walked on eggshells, and begged to be included has departed. Tonight, an ancient and wild force within you awakens. It moves without knocking, whispering, or asking questions. This is the version of you that is indifferent to whether they comprehend, applaud, or remain. The light of this version is not diminished or watered down in order to placate fragile egos. This version manifests as thunder and proceeds as prophecy. It doesn't wait to be understood before fully embracing its purpose. You were misled into believing that you needed to earn the right to exist. That being too much made you unworthy, that your sensitivity was a flaw, and that your voice required filtering. However, none of this was ever true. The amount they considered excessive was actually the exact amount required to break free from chains, not only for oneself, but also for those who are silently observing you, waiting for permission to rise. There is no turning back at this point. You no longer want a seat at the table. The table represents you. You are no longer hoping that they will see your value. You're creating a world where their approval is irrelevant. Fear, which had previously silenced your voice, has been eliminated. You no longer make second guesses. People will watch you as you make decisions, advance, and evolve. Some of them will contract. Some people may dislike your audacity. However, those who are genuine will feel liberated as a result. You recently shared a significant lesson with the world. When you stop requesting permission, the universe no longer indicates no. So, take a deep breath tonight. Enter without first knocking. Speak without regret. Continue to exist without diminishment. Because the version of you that begged to be chosen has been officially replaced by the one who understands that they were born and chosen. The 14th test will be you, and everyone will fail. You are no longer simply navigating life. You're moving through the masks of others. You are transforming into the mirror they cannot avoid, the evidence they cannot refute, and the examination they never anticipated. Your presence will reveal everything hidden beneath their surface smiles, not because you want to expose them, but because your elevation automatically distinguishes between the genuine and the jealous. Once they reach a certain level, their responses will begin to function as their own evaluations. This is not an issue of arrogance. It refers to alignment. When you emit a glow, they will either emulate or flee. However, the most important aspect is this: you will not have to speak. The divine trigger is the peace you walk in, the confidence you carry, and the glow you exude without trying. People will begin to behave differently, not as a result of your transformation, but because your transformation has made it impossible for them to conceal their true selves. Some people will quietly withdraw, unable to express their happiness for you because they have been secretly competing with you the entire time. Certain people will try to undermine something they are unable to manage. And a small number of people, the select few, will rise alongside you because they were never threatened by your expansion. They were anticipating its arrival. And now that it has arrived, God is using your life as a litmus test. Who commemorates? Who is the source of the gossip? Who is the person who withdraws? Who inspires others? Who offers congratulations? Also, who complicates matters? You are the test, not to humiliate anyone, but to identify those who are truly aligned with their destiny. The level to which you are transitioning cannot accommodate counterfeit support. The test does not determine who likes you. It refers to the person who is capable of managing the transformation that God is causing within you. Like oil in water, jealousy, ego, and hidden bitterness will emerge. It must. Your presence requires candor at this time. You won't even need discernment. Their responses will give you all the information you need. Enter the room with confidence. Shine with brilliance. Exercise your right to free speech. Your accomplishments are sacred. In addition, there is a spiritual obligation to reveal the truth. Shamd, you are not just enhancing. You are not separating out of pride, but for a purpose. You are now the divine filter. Furthermore, some people are on the verge of passing that exam with flying colors. In summary, and now the chosen one, take a deep breath, because you will never be the same after tonight. The previous version of you, the one who questioned, dimmed, and deferred, has been buried without a funeral. What is currently on the rise is unusual. It is not an issue of ego. Retribution is not the goal. It's a reminder. You are recalling a truth that the world has tried to erase from your mind. You were never meant to conform, remain silent, or settle. You were created to disrupt patterns, dispel illusions, and transmit frequencies that are too high for most people to understand. The evening was about more than just inspiration. It was about activation. This was a real-time spiritual switch that was activated. Closure is unnecessary from this point forward. You are the finality. You do not request authorization. You are the source of authorization. You refrain from seeking validation. The evidence is you. Every wound was transformed into a weapon. Every scar became a symbol. Every betrayal served as a blueprint. Your life is no longer simply a story. It is the process of putting scripture into action. You are no longer a viable option in anyone's life. You are the test, the prophecy, the filter, and the judge walking. The audit is your highlight. The verdict is silence. It is clear that they have lost access to something valuable, as your calmness indicates that they believed you were finished. That was just God drawing back the curtain. Therefore, proceed with dignity. Be audible even in silence. Maintain a strong sense of self-assurance. Returning to a state of diminution is impossible. You have been promoted to a higher position not to impress, but to make an important contribution. The world will tempt you to return to your previous roles, conversations, and cycles. Please refrain from proceeding. You've outgrown them. Allow them to converse. Allow them to ponder. Allow them to assess their own capabilities in relation to your luminosity. Those who are genuine will rise alongside you. Fake ones naturally detach. This is not a source of pride. That's divine filtration. You aren't developing. You already are. And tonight was simply the occasion when the rest of the world was informed. If this message spoke to you, if you felt a sense of recognition, awakening, or divine confirmation, please don't keep it to yourself. You can now join a community that speaks your language and values your light by clicking the subscribe button. Similar to the video, this truth continues to rise in the algorithm. Please leave a comment below and tell the world which section resonated with you the most, as your voice is important in this context. If you know of anyone who needs this term, please pass it along via text, direct message, or group chat. Serving as a messenger for another person's breakthrough. This is not just content. This is a movement. Your assistance also helps to keep the flame burning. I'll see you in the following video. However, in the meantime, continue to radiate and ascend, and never apologize for your influence. You are not just viewing this channel. You're the reason it exists. May you be blessed.